Liza here. Welcome back to another video. As I'm sure you can already tell from the title of this one, we are going to do something a little bit outside of my comfort zone today, which might involve making a big, huge mess. In case you're new here, my name is Liza Compass, and I love making videos about art, music, and my creative journey as a whole. This channel has a little bit of everything, so if you'd like to learn more about me, my art, and the things that I talk about, please consider watching some of my other videos after this one, and if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and join this amazing and growing family. And like I said before, what I'm about to try is completely outside of my comfort zone, but that's one of the most exciting things about creating art, right? So because of that, during today's video, I am going to be pushing my boundaries in so many ways. If you know anything about me as an artist, you know that I work in a plethora of mediums already, and yes, I do acrylic paint now and again. But when it comes to painting, my preferred medium is definitely oil paints. But not only am I a painter, I also draw as well. I love working on things with intricate detail that have a lot of fine control over them. Well, that's one thing that I'm definitely not gonna have today. I really have to throw caution to the wind and see where the paint flows and where it takes me. Honestly, quite literally. Now, I will say I do have a slight outline of a plan when it comes to this painting, but I also realize that when push comes to shove, I'm probably going to have to just throw that plan away and do something completely different. In fact, the more I think about it, there's a really good chance that this could be an epic fail. So make sure you stick around to the end. I guess we'll see together. Even so, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm ready to push my creativity and of course make this a real Liza Compass video by putting my own spin on paint pouring. So with that being said, let's get started. And again, guys, just a friendly reminder that I am not an expert at this. This is going to be an honest video, made up of trial and error and unexpected developments, and some serious make-it-work moments. All the makings of a true masterpiece, right? Or at the very least, a big, huge mess, but we're gonna figure it out no matter what happens. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're probably all too familiar with the paint pouring rabbit hole that is YouTube, and I have fallen down it many a times. And despite what I've heard from some naysayers when it comes to paint pouring, this is not an easy thing by any means. There is a lot of artistry and planning that goes into this, plus there's a lot to learn before you even get started. So after countless hours of painstaking research, binging content from so many incredible artists and creators here on YouTube, I have finally built up the courage to try, to do the thing. So here goes nothing. When it comes to mixing your paint, there are so many recipes and techniques out there among the interwebs, but in the end, I decided to use Blick brand acrylic paints as my base, mixed with Floetrol and a touch of distilled water as necessary. My original plan of attack was mixing 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol, but I quickly realized that some of my paints needed more thinning than others, so I ended up winging it a little bit, trying instead to just get each paint to the same ideal consistency. Is this the best way to do it? Am I making a horrible mistake? Potentially. But like I said, this is a learning experience for me. So if you have any suggestions, tips, or fun stories when it comes to your own paint pouring adventures, be sure to share them with me and everyone else in the comment section below. I'm sure I'll need all the help I can get. From what I've researched, I know that using Floetrol is supposedly great for making cells on its own, but I've also decided to add a drop of silicone oil to every other one of my color cups. I decided not to do all of them because I didn't want to go completely overboard. In the end, my goal is cells, a pleasing color palette, and a sense of movement with my finished pour. Because once it dries, I'm going to unleash my imagination, turning this into something completely different, inspired by whatever is about to happen. And now for the moment of truth. Here goes nothing. Well, that was exciting, messy, and extremely satisfying. This looks really intriguing to me at the moment, but I also know that a lot can happen between now and the time this painting dries. And I think that's going to take quite a while. So for now, I'm going to let this canvas be, and we'll be back in a few days to see what the heck happened. Fingers crossed. Okay, it's been about 2 weeks since I initially poured this painting, and my initial reaction is that it's different, for sure. What is that noise? So guys, I'm really sorry for any kind of road noise or weird nature sounds you might hear during this part of the video. I'm actually recording this outside in my shed, so yeah. It's not exactly what I was expecting. The colors turned out a lot darker than I thought they were going to be. There are some texture issues that I'm seeing in the surface. I have like a little bubble here and there. But again, this is all part of the learning curve, I guess, with paint pouring. I knew going into this that it wasn't going to be a controlled thing, that I wasn't going to be able to make this look exactly as I expected it to in my head. I'll also admit that I was prepared for the shapes to change and for cells to pop up and for the paint to move and for the overall shape and composition to change a bit as it dried. But I wasn't expecting the colors to change quite as much as they did. So yeah, but the good news is I still have a really beautiful painting here, and I actually am getting a lot of ideas. There's a lot of sounds, good Lord. Good Jesus, now there's planes. I swear, there wasn't this much sound when I was setting up to record this part, and now everything is flying over, everything is driving by, and there's birds having a concert outside. I can't right now. Oh, and my dog just got let out. He was barking earlier too. So my next step for this painting is going to be to take it inside for a bit, put it up on my wall, stare at it for a while, and just figure out what this wants to become. This is the exciting part for me. While I was at the art store trying to decide which colors I should put into this pour, I remember telling myself not to pull too many. My original thought was to pick a palette that mimicked a sunset. But as I stood there in front of a plethora of choices, of course I got a bit more adventurous. Maybe even too adventurous. You see, once all these paints had a chance to mix and mingle, they came up with their own plan, that's for sure. What I have in front of me now is giving me galactic and otherworldly vibes. It's mysterious, yet oddly inviting to me. And I think I want to explore this new land, this new idea, even further. As an artist, I would consider myself to be fairly eclectic. I love working with all different kinds of mediums and styles, really whatever direction I'm inspired to go at the moment. But if you had to put me in a box, I've always been a surrealist at heart. I find myself towing the line between dreams and reality, in life, in art, in everything. Because somewhere in between, there's a sweet spot that has always felt something like home. But never mind my woo-woo self. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of this piece. Right away, there are two areas of concern with some funky textures going on. I probably poured way too much paint on this canvas, and it looks like it had difficulty drying in the middle. And again, just another lesson learned. It's going to be okay. I have looked at this canvas from every possible angle, and the more I do, the more this horizon line keeps jumping out in front of me that runs straight down the middle here. And from there, I can see mountains rising up with an upward movement of smoke and haze. It gives me ominous volcanic vibes, and I'm really digging the idea of having this striking white streak right at the top of my painting. I picture water here, splitting the horizon between the mountains and some sort of foreground below, wrapping around to reflect the shape of the mountains above. And as far as the sky goes, I think I'm going to mostly leave this region alone. I feel like less is more, especially when it comes to projects like this. And honestly, the last thing I want to do is ruin what I've started. So I think leaving a good chunk of beautiful cells untouched to shine on their own is going to help balance my composition as a whole. Before I start painting, I really need to try to get rid of some of these texture boo-boos. Luckily, there's only 2 that are giving me a real problem right now, so I'm just going to sand them away and cover them with something new. To embellish, I'll be using the same acrylic paints from my original pour, along with some Posca paint pens. Poscas are great. They're water-based, and you can blend them out with a brush if you work quickly, which you'll see that I end up doing quite a lot with this painting. This spot in the foreground will be the most difficult to cover, so I decided to tackle this area first. I'm trying to establish distinct regions in the painting because even though my end goal is somewhere between surrealism and abstraction, I still want viewers to identify this as a landscape right away. I've decided to use pink to define a bold border reaching across the entire top of my foreground. Honestly, I'm not even really sure what I'm trying to go for at this moment, but it feels good and I'm just gonna go with it, so who cares? As a person and an artist, I am guided by my feelings all the time, especially when it comes to painting. So I'm just not gonna mess with a good vibe, you know? And I don't want to fight what's already here and take anything too seriously. In fact, the more I look at this, it's starting to remind me of neurons and brain activity, which is really exciting to me. Is this a scene from some far-off world, or is it something that resides inside my head? Inside the human body somehow? Who knows? Trippy. Anyway, I like this belt of cells running across the canvas. They remind me of cavities and lava tubes, so I've decided to make them pop even more, painting in some shadows for contrast. Now I'm going to block in the mountains and water regions with thin, transparent layers of paint. I don't want to take away all the crazy details here, but I also need to soften them a bit to make everything make sense in the scheme of my composition. Even so, it's a difficult choice to make, and I'm hoping I haven't made a horrible mistake in doing so. I really like what's happening with the water here. I'm focusing all the detail toward the horizon line, diffusing it down toward the foreground to create depth and allow these beautiful cells to show through from below. This concept of creating a neural network has really inspired me, so I've decided to elaborate and let myself go a little crazy. I want people to wonder what this is, what it could be, and where it comes from. So I'm trying to incorporate several elements of organic shapes and systems, branching off in every which way, almost as if they're about to take over the entire canvas. Now to add some definition to the mountain range, rising up into the distance. I don't want to add too much though. To keep the illusion of far-off mountains, I'm trying to keep everything feeling very subdued and atmospheric, yet strong and looming at the same time. I'm using the same blending technique with my Poscas as I did with the water. First, I draw out sharp, defined edges, then immediately go in with a small mop brush to blend the edge out from one side. If you've ever used a makeup brush to blend out eyeshadow, it feels a lot like that. If you're not careful, the paint will wipe away with too much pressure, so be sure to use just a light touch with minute motions. My brush feels like it's barely touching the canvas in most cases. Now I'm going to further define the mountains just a bit by adding some shadows using the same technique, only with black instead. And finally, I'm using white to add some small highlights and to pull down the wisps from the sky. This gives the illusion of smoke rising up, tying everything together by unifying ground and sky. I feel as if I haven't even done all that much. Yet after a few minor touch-ups here and there, I'm really happy with what I've created. This painting has gone through a complete transformation, and I have to say that even though I had my doubts throughout this process, the finished piece still feels like me. And even after trying something completely different and outside of my comfort zone, I'm proud to say that it still fits within my aesthetic. This painting has its own little place within the landscape of my mind now. My crazy, random, very artistic mind. So you might be wondering, will I do more of these paintings in the future? Honestly, I think probably so. I'd love to know what you guys think of this process, and hopefully you're inspired to embark on some new, exciting, creative adventures of your own. Getting outside of your comfort zone on a regular basis is one of the best ways to grow as an artist. And I know for me, I cannot wait to see what I can get my hands dirty with next. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you want to see more like this in the future, please don't forget to hit that like button down below. Leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of the video and what more you'd like to see in the future. And of course, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Do it! Hit the button, ring the bell, and join this amazing and growing family. I am so excited for what the future holds for this channel, and even though we're small, we are mighty, and I have a lot of exciting videos and projects coming up in 2021 that you're not going to want to miss. So be sure to ring that notification bell so that you get notified every single time I post a new video. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching, keep creating, and I will see you in my next video.